Good afternoon, my dear colleagues and friends. I will welcome you to our Universal Philosophical Community, the White Tower. Today's guest is Professor Daniel Dal Monte. Professor, we're very happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Dimitrios. It's a pleasure to be here as well. Good to see you again.
Thank you. And there are also more academics, scholars and researchers that have joined in, and we'd later have them in our panel as well, contributing to our topic of discussion, which is Kant's Phenomenology, and also what's Kant's Phenomenology in relation to Advaita Vedanta, an Indian philosophical topic. So let me share a few things about Dr. Daniel Dal Monte's academic career. Daniel Dal Monte received his doctorate in philosophy from Temple University in 2021. He specializes in metaphysics with a particular focus on the issue of free will. His research centers on the Western philosophical tradition, particularly the ideas of Immanuel Kant, while he's also developing an interest in Eastern philosophy. He's engaged in contemporary debates on free will, including general perspectives that view humans as mechanistic or machines, which challenge the concept of free choice. He's now a lecturer at Rowan University and Jefferson University. He's active on Substack with his blog, Philosophy, Spirituality and Culture. And he's also the author of a textbook for critical thinking and informal classes on logic for undergraduates, published by Cognella, and it's called The Logical Worldview. This is Daniel Dal Monte's book, The Logical Worldview, Skills to Distinguish Fact from Fiction in the Contemporary Information War. So, Dr. Daniel, thanks again. Thank you. We're very glad to have you here with us. And
for that very nice introduction. Thank you very much.
And we'd like to learn some more information today about the distinction, about Kant's phenomenology, the distinction between phenomena and noumena. No matter how difficult they seem to be, there are always some easy ways to make a distinction, a clear distinction between these two concepts. We know, for instance, that phenomena are the things we perceive them as appearances of the objects, whereas noumena are objects which exist independently as things in themselves, as raw objects in an external world without any space or time, as if we are trying to approach them in a transcendental view. But how easy is it to finally get a grasp on both of these terms? Let's start our journey of explaining this terminology.
Yeah, thank you, Dimitrios. So this is a fascinating topic, and I think the best way to begin will be to simply look at the Greek roots of these words. So, as you know, I'm sure, Dimitrios, phenomena is an English word, but it comes from the Greek, meaning an appearance, something that pertains to human experience. And then we have noumena, which pertains to the mind, So the Greek word is nous. And the idea is that we can contrast between that which we can encounter with our senses. We have daily experiences of concrete objects in a particular location in space and time. Okay. At the same time, we can think with nous, with mind, of that which transcends concrete embodiment in space and time. And the most emblematic thinker that establishes this distinction would be Plato, between the sensible world, which is the world of concrete things in space and time. This is the world of Heraclitus, the world of change, of particularity. Okay? At the same time, there's a world to be grasped by our reason, by nous. It is the intelligible world. It is the world that does not have embodiment in space and time. It is a world of universal forms. So we know from, for instance, the dialogue, the Phaedo, that there's a particular embodiment of, for instance, equality. It's like two equal sticks. They're of equal length. And that would be an embodiment of equality. But at the same time, we can't derive our idea of equality from a particular. The idea of equality is a category that encompasses, many, many instances. And this idea is something that is not rooted in a particular point in space and time. So there's a form, a Platonic, I think the word is eidos, and it's transcendent, and it's grasped by the mind, but not by the senses.
Το είδος που λέμε στα ελληνικά. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, sorry. Yes, exactly. Yes. This and so it's like this combination of Heraclitus and Parmenides. And by that I mean the changing world of phenomena, and then the unchanging world of the forms. And Plato thinks that both are essential to metaphysics, and it creates an entire sort of spiritual discipline where the job of the philosopher is to detach from the senses and reach to a deeper truth in the eternal forms. So I think this is the proper framework for Kant. With him, he's working in this tradition of the sensible world, which is phenomena, and the intelligible world, which is noumena. And this is coming all the way from Greek philosophy. So I think that's the proper framework for getting the basic ideas of these terms.
Very nice explanation to start with. There are, of course, other philosophers who have dealt with issues of the noumenal realm, such as John Locke, who states the primary and secondary qualities, for example, or Berkeley, who states that all qualities are secondary. Plato's ideas, as you have mentioned, the eternal ideas, and of course Aristotle, that they are in objects themselves. All of these philosophers trying to explain the metaphysical world, metaphysics consisting of God, the self, and the essences, actually. But the thing is, when we consider Kant's critique of pure reason, if you embark on some empirical thinking, without doing the project of pure reason, it's clear that you don't get the right kind of justification. And what you actually get is an illusory view of today's reality. In what ways can we, as conscious beings, get out of our, let's say, illusionary world and try to reach the knowledge of the real thing?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to return to a figure that you mentioned earlier, John Locke, because the crucial idea, I think, is expressed well by Locke, believe it or not. And the idea is of a substance. And this is a crucial metaphysical notion. It goes back to Aristotle. A substance is the primary reality. Nothing can exist apart from a substance. So to have a quality or a quantity or a relation, you must first have a thing that these categories characterize. So a quality would be like a color. You can't have the color blue without something that blue characterizes. So substance is a primary reality. Now, what happens in early modern philosophy, this whole notion is called into question. It's called into question because it seems as though we cannot access the substance in our experience. And that's because when we examine objects, we see a set of properties. We see a color, we see a shape, we feel something with our hands. We have various sensations, but do we have a sensation of that which sustains these qualities? Or is it just a collection of qualities? Okay, so with Locke, he says, the substance is something I know not what. That is the phrase that we associate with Locke. The substance is something I know not what, because it is a ground of the properties that we observe. So I can see a color, I can see a shape, but there must be something that has these qualities, but I cannot observe that substance itself.
Exactly.
So what happens is that we have a figure by the name of David Hume. And David Hume decides that we can just dispense with the idea of a substance. We may as well adopt what was called now a bundle theory. That there are no substances, or at least we cannot empirically validate this notion of a substance. That all that there is are bundles of properties. So when I eat an apple, there's a taste, there's a feeling of it in my hand. It tastes sweet. It looks red, depending upon what apple you are eating. It could be green. Apples come in varieties, right? But the idea is that it's not a thing with properties. It is merely a bundle of properties. Okay? So this is a great challenge to metaphysics, because Hume is saying that we can get rid of these ideas that don't have a concrete impression associated with them. We can get rid of substance. We can get rid of cause. We only see things happening, repeated experiences. There's no like cause. This is something that we can get rid of. We can get rid of the idea of God. We can get rid of the idea of the self. None of these things have any concrete impressions. And Hume says we can just kind of toss all these ideas to the flames. We can simply exist in terms of phenomena. And we can just reject metaphysics. This is what is going to give rise to Kant's work, because he says that Hume wakes him up from his dogmatic slumber. That is a famous line from Kant. Hume is the one who gets him out of this slumber, where he believed that he had certain knowledge, but Hume was very challenging.
Yeah, I do remember that that phrase. We need, nevertheless, we need the concept of noumena to express our transcendental philosophy. And Kant claims that there aren't any noumena in a positive sense, meaning that nothing is given to me in a certain intellectual way. What I mostly want is to be given things not as they are given to us, not being given in a sensible way. So we need that thought. We need to think for ourselves to get a grasp of the metaphysical realm. What's your comment on this?
Yes. So here's the idea.
He mostly favors negative conception rather than positive conception.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So
yeah,
the noumena for Kant. So let me connect back to Hume. Okay, so Hume has this challenge. All these concepts that have no concrete impressions should be dismissed. So Kant, in a way, agrees. Mm-hmm. Kant says that it is an error to try to use our understanding beyond an empirical use. That when we try to extend our understanding beyond the empirical domain, we're entering a domain of empty speculation. There's no rootedness in objects, and we are in danger of entering into a space of illusions. This is Kant's critique of metaphysics. The idea that you could simply use your reason and you have no experiential basis, and you could develop a complete system of metaphysics. You prove that God exists. You prove that there's a harmony of soul and body. This is Leibniz. You have these elaborate metaphysical systems simply using concepts. But Kant says that the understanding should have an empirical use. And within that empirical domain, it has certain boundaries. When it tries to overstep these boundaries, it runs the danger of embracing illusions. And so, however, we do have the idea of something beyond. We can't say that the experiential world is all that's there. We can't say that, okay, this is all that's there. We're going to be strictly naturalist. Because it's possible that there could be another kind of intelligence besides our own that can grasp a noumenal object that's beyond experience. But for us, we only have a negative concept of it, meaning that we know that our phenomena do not cover everything, that there's a possibility of some sort of object beyond phenomena. But as far as having a positive grasp of these objects, that we can have a positive verification that such a thing exists, some transcendent reality, that is not something that we can achieve. So it's a very important distinction between the negative sense of a noumena. Yes, it's not a contradiction. It is not a contradiction to think that there could be something beyond experience. There could be supernatural. But it's also not a positive sense where you can have direct verification and we know for sure that there are noumenal objects. There are intelligible objects such as a soul, okay? Such as an immortal soul, such as God, such as a power of free will. So this is the key distinction that Demetrios brought up. And I believe that Aisha has a comment that I would like you to read for us, Demetrios.
Yes, Aisha says that noumena is postulated but can be cognized. Kant posits the concept of noumena as necessary, as otherwise, how will we account for the appearances? The appearances are appearances of something, yes.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. Beautifully put. So the idea is that we have to have a limiting. There's a limiting concept. We have our senses. They show us certain aspects of reality, but they don't necessarily cover everything. And in fact, by logic, there must be something that appears. So he's rejecting Hume here. You can't just have a bundle of perceptions. There must be something, we don't know exactly what it is, but must be something that has the qualities. So that's very well put by Aisha. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And now, after presenting this basic distinction between noumena and phenomena within Kant's phenomenology, let's move on to the school of Advaita Vedanta. Now that there are a lot of scholars and PhD candidates and academics are joining us from India, and I'd like their own comments on the school of Advaita Vedanta and if this school of thought is related somehow to Kant's phenomenology, if we can compare and contrast these two philosophical currents.
First, may I?
Yes, yes.
May I interrupt?
Please,
because Aisha has another comment. May I address Aisha's comment here?
Yes, Aisha also says about Kant that Kant's argument has no mystical elements in it. His argument is rooted in material grounds. He's saying that the objects, as they really are, and the dynamics of the natural world can't be known by us as we make sense of the world by way of the forms and categories of the mind. Beyond this, we can't make sense of the world. We know objects discursively through categories and not intuitively through a non-sensible intuition.
Yeah, may I raise I would like to raise a little bit of a maybe objection to that. Mm-hmm. So I believe that, yes, we can't have a positive verification of a noumenal object. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
However, there is the possibility of such objects. So we can't also rule out such objects. And in fact, if you continue in Kant's body of work, these ideas are crucial for our practical reason. So when we act on the basis of the moral law, we also appeal to the ideas of an immortal soul, of God. So he will bring in these ideas through practical reason. So I wouldn't read him as, a naturalist. He's more nuanced than that. So that would be my contribution there.
I think
yes, Manas. Yes, please jump in.
I think Kant was an agnostic. He was an agnostic. He has not proved anything about the self. He just said that there is a transcendental level. For example, the unconditional love, transcendental freedom, for example. These concepts can only be localized in the nominal reality. But at the time, when we try to explain these concepts with our day-to-day experiences, we are reducing those concepts into phenomenal reality.
Yeah, I mean, Manas said the word you use, agnostic, I think is appropriate. An agnostic, meaning that you have no knowledge. You cannot affirm or deny with your theoretical reason a noumenal object. So I think that's an appropriate word, I think, to introduce. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Manas. And we've got another comment from Saima, who says Kant categorized the knowledge noumena beyond our senses, but can be considered as present entities. For example, there are various lives in water bodies deep in the depth, but who cannot experience them. This is Saima.
Yeah, I think I know what Saima is saying.
Yeah.
But I believe so the distinction is that you have experience that are readily available, but you also have experiences that are more distant and remote. For instance, like someone.
That's like the difference between perception and conception.
Yeah, like there's like people on the moon, right? Maybe there's people on the moon. I don't have an experience of that, There's things in the depths of the ocean. There's things at the microscopic level. Okay, but I believe that the phenomena noumena distinction is not that. That's not what it is. That's it. So he says actually that if you go, he says that there's the intelligible world is not like the difference between looking at the stars with the naked eye and then a telescope. I could use a telescope to look deeper into the stars. No, noumena are beyond experience altogether. Noumena are beyond possible experience. So it's even more radical than that. So I think it's wrong to think that the noumena would be a deeper level of experience. Like you can go deeper with a telescope than you can with your naked eye. It's a deeper distinction than that, I believe.
Thank you, Professor. And now it's high time we moved on to the School of Advaita Vedanta. And how does this relate to Kant's phenomenology? We know, for example, that the whole idea of Advaita Vedanta. What is Advaita? Advaita means non-duality. This is the idea, not two, in other words. The absolute reality as Brahman is the only thing that truly exists. And this actually challenges the dualism between multiplicity and oneness, and challenges the idea of how we perceive both ourselves and the world we see. It's more often than not that we have this false assumption, this misunderstanding of the way we see the world through our lens, because we are often mistaken. So the Brahman is the only truth according to Advaita Vedanta, and Brahman is identified with our true selves. Brahman is real, the world is illusory. The self is not different from the Brahman, so it's absolutely identical with the true self. And Brahman is, of course, is neither a he nor an it, is neither a personal being nor an impersonal being. It goes beyond this subject-object distinction, and this is a timeless, eternal, almighty conscious being, let's say, a pure consciousness. You're welcome to jump in and tell us what you think about this idea. Professor Daniel, like to
there is a verse in Advaita Vedanta. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, Manas.
There is a verse in Advaita Vedanta that says that Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmeva Na Para. What does that mean? That means Brahman is only real thing, and there is nothing apart from Brahman. Everything is Brahman. You and I are not different.
Aisha has a comment on Advaita Vedanta and says Vedanta speaks of only one reality, that is Brahman. Brahman as the ultimate reality. The world is an illusory appearance, Maya. Advaita Vedanta is a path of spiritual discipline and experience, and states that moksha is the liberation from the suffering and the rebirth, this cycle of birth, death, rebirth. If I'm not mistaken, this is called samsara. So yes, moksha is the liberation from samsara. And how is it attained? It is attained through knowledge of Brahman, recognizing the illusion of the phenomenal world. Now, I, as a Jivatman, need to acquire knowledge. So this has to do with the acquisition of knowledge of my true identity as Brahman. So I've got to really know the self, myself, to have acquisition of knowledge of who I really am as Brahman, or even as a witness consciousness and not a doer, as she says. This knowledge is acquired through Upanishadic statements. Yes, Upanishads are these holy scriptures which actually destroy the ignorance, avidya, regarding one's true identity. Yes, yes. This has to do with how you can actually overcome your ignorant state of being and move on to the knowledgeable state of being, as a conscious being, let's say. Because all of us as beings are permitted by the one and only consciousness, pure consciousness, universal consciousness, that of the cosmos. Very nice comment.
Thank you, Aisha. That's very nice.
Yeah. So the whole point of moksha, liberation, will be attained if we are our true selves, if we are Brahman, because Brahman is not an object. We can say that we have Brahman, we have mastered Brahman as an object. It's different from the known and also above the unknown. The correct thing we have to admit is it is being Brahman, knowing Brahman, not as an object, but as being identical with one's true self. So this is liberation, our true state. If we have knowledge, and how we can attain this true knowledge, if we remove all these superimpositions, let's say, all these false impressions and ideas that we have about objects that we're surrounded with. So we don't want to produce any new result. The only thing we really need is to get rid of this excess weight, get rid of all these false notions that conquer our minds. The thing is that I'd like to ask you, I mean, we as human beings, more often than not, we put obstacles to ourselves, superimposing things on the real picture, on the big picture. And what's the result? We obscure reality and make it even more difficult to attain real knowledge of the real thing, the Brahman. For instance, there are individuals trying to distort the real picture of what's going on by substituting it with a fake one, so as to gain the most out of it, be it profit, fame, or having the upper hand in terms of management control. How can we, as humans, reverse this situation for the common good? And how shall we be thinking?
Yeah, maybe I can address your question, Dimitrios, because a big part of Sankara is moving beyond illusion to ultimate truth. And how are we to do that? How are we to, like, it would be like a coming out of Plato's cave.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar idea, right? You're in the cave, you're seeing only shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do that? Well, I think there's certain specific spiritual practices that I think Aisha mentioned. We're supposed to go through certain processes that realize that you are not this limited self. So she mentions that's how you are. Yeah, so the idea is you're supposed to go through certain processes that show you that you are not a limited individual self. And one of the thoughts that I had was, you can never grasp your own consciousness. So if you try to grasp your consciousness, make your consciousness an object, well then you are still the subject of that consciousness. So as you think about your consciousness, well then you are still the subject of that, and you're not the object. So it seems like there's an inescapable elusiveness of your own consciousness. It is not an object, because anytime you make it into an object, well then you shift back, and now you are the subject of that object. So I'm wondering if is that helping us grasp what this witness consciousness is? The consciousness is never an object. I mean, maybe Aisha has comments on that, or if that made sense.
We've got a comment from Manas, who says, Sankara would argue that in order to realize the transcendental self, we have to make the distinction between permanent and impermanent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very Platonic.
Everything helps, I think, towards that direction.
Yeah. But Plato also wants us to access the permanent.
The forms,
as opposed to
the ideas.
Yes, exactly, the forms. Now, I would say, comparing to Kant, I believe that Sankara is making a positive claim about what the noumena reality is. So I believe that Sankara is making he's saying the noumenal reality is non-dual, and I believe that this would be impossible in Kant's system. You couldn't make such an assertion. This is a positive assertion about what the noumena are, that they are namely this single Brahman. And I think this would be something that would be impossible in Kant's critical system.
Yes, this is a main difference. But it is a great attempt on the part of Advaita Vedanta's school philosophy to make such a leap into knowledge, not only faith, but knowledge. One's true self being identified, absolutely identified with Brahman. Very impressive.
Many comments here. Maybe we can read these and then wrap things up. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to read one last one. From Aisha, who says the two levels of realities, the absolute and the empirical, are important in Shankara's philosophy. Paramarthika is the reality that is metaphysically true. This reality is the highest. It can't be assimilated by any other. Very useful comments.
She continues there.
Oh yeah.
Whereas
I don't know how. Whereas Vavaharika, I'm not sure if it's pronounced correctly. Whereas Vavaharika is empirically true. It is ever changing over time. Yes, things are in flux situation. That's empirically true at a given time and context, but not metaphysically true. It is our world of experience, the phenomenal world that we handle every day when we are awake. Yes, the material world is also true, but this is incomplete reality and is sublatable. Yeah.
So this sounds very Kantian. And I would like to inject one more thought here. Because I'm reading here that Sankara believes in perceptual realism, that the objects of perception are real. They are not like the Buddhist Yogacara idealism. So he's not saying that they're purely mental objects, but also that they're not complete reality. So I'm wondering if people can, that is very interesting that he's rejecting this Yogacara Buddhist idealism, but so these objects of empirical world are real, but they're not the complete reality. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. So we're coming to an end. Are there any last comments? on behalf of all attendees that are listening to us?
I'd like to read Manas. His comment says, Sankara has an ontological commitment which Kant avoids in his work. And that's precisely what I was saying. Precisely what I was saying, that the noumenal reality is very established in Sankara. I don't think you can do this in the work, the critical philosophy of Kant.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So
that nominal reality, which we call, which Kant call as nomina, is what Shankar calls at pratibhashik satya. So there are 3 different levels of reality, which is called trikal in Shankara philosophy. And it's Paramarthik Satya, Vyavaharik Satya, and Pratibhashik Satya. So Paramarthik Satya is what Brahman is, what Shankara calls the absolute reality, and he believes in that there is only one absolute thing, which is Brahman, which is there inside all the creatures, everything in this universe is made up of this absolute reality, which is called Brahman. And this Vyavaharik Satya, which Shankar calls as a nominal world. It's the empirical reality or pragmatic reality. You know, the world that we perceive in daily life. And then there is Pratibhashik Satya, which is illusory reality, which consists of dreams, hallucinations, and all.
I see.
So,
thank you. Thank you, Bhawna. So 3 levels of reality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then he also described the path to attain the liberation or moksha. He said that there are different paths. Jnana Yoga is one of it. The path of knowledge, you know, the path to self-inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
And that Jnana Yoga one achieved through different stages. One is Shravana, then Manana, then Nididhyasan. So Shravana is listening to what others are saying, listening to the teachings of gurus, listening to the teachings of the professors, what they're teaching. So first stage is listening, then Manana, contemplation on or reflections on the teachings of what the gurus are teaching. Then there is Nididhyasan, which consists of, you know, deep meditation and assimilation of that knowledge, what you have gained through the first 2 stages. You meditate that knowledge and you inculcate that knowledge into your, you know, daily life.
Yeah. Yep. That's amazing stuff, Bhawna. Amazing comments. But we should wrap this up, Demetrios. Maybe we're
yes,
kind of getting tired. So,
and only to remind you all of the fact that you can all, especially the attendees who are joining us, sound only, you can send us your own links directly to our emails so that we can include them below the video we're going to upload later on our YouTube channel, so that people can know your links and refer to you. So thank you all for attending today's session. We've had a very interesting discussion regarding Kant's phenomenology, distinction between noumena and phenomena, as well as how this phenomenology relates to the school of Advaita Vedanta. Thank you all for attending our session, and we wish you a good day, a good day in Philadelphia, and a good night in India.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the insights.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Okay. Take care, Demetrios.
Yeah, see you all.
Take care.
Take care.